Hello, welcome to True Hoop with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
Friend, how are you?
I'm good. We enjoyed some great wine this weekend, courtesy of you and Chrissy. Very, very delicious.
Which one was it? Do you remember?
It was so. The thing that's annoying is like these vineyards are like these people's names, and I'm like, what's that guy's name again? But the bottle's over there in the corner in the kitchen. So when we're done with the show,
send me a picture. Yeah.
But no, this is good stuff. Very, very, very quality wine. Thank you again. Wonderful.
You are welcome.
David, the Pacers trade for Pascal Siakam went down, and we talked about it a bit last week. You wrote about it. There's excitement around there. A lot of people forward to what it can mean this season. Right now, 2 games is no sample size, so whatever. Lost their 2 games, but because you watch games differently than the average person watches games, you're seeing things you like, and it's tied to what I liked about the trade, which was they didn't really give up a lot of their young or any of their young, really good guys to get Pascal, which means they can be good now and good into the future. So what have you liked about what you've seen from the Pacers with the addition of Pascal Siakam?
Well, last night they lost a super entertaining game at Phoenix. They did not have a good game against Portland the game before. Tyrese Halliburton came back for that game, but he was coming off a hamstring issue that kept him out of last night's game.
Yep.
And was not very good, and yet I think he had like 21 and 17 with no turnovers. He's fucking phenomenal. Offensively, he's just a joke. But you could tell he wasn't he kind of had a rhythm and everything. And they had some other injuries too that kept guys out. And last night, I thought they played really well. There's a couple things that excite me about their team. They don't know what they're doing yet with Siakam. That's going to come. He's much better in the paint than what they're used to. They'll figure that out. I think they probably have had a half practice since he got there. Yeah, probably, yeah. Because they had one day off in between Portland and Phoenix, so they probably got in the gym for a few minutes. But they're flying down the court, getting shots up, and he's just getting positioned to steal inside and even look for him. They will. I don't think they're a selfish team at all. Miles Turner fits in great next to him. He wants to just shoot threes anyway. He went 6 of 10 against Portland. He wasn't as good last night. He's going to be a plus defender for them. He's been okay. I think he's been good, not great. He needs to be great. I think he can be. And it just gives them, with Nesmith and Nembhard came back last night. Nembhard's defense on Booker was maybe the best definitely the best I've ever seen him do. Maybe the best I've ever seen Booker be guarded. I think Booker might have been 9 for 24. It wasn't all Andrew by any stretch. But he really was terrific against them. And so they've got all these moving pieces that I think will coalesce. But what really intrigues me is Mathurin is struggling. He had his worst game of the season in Portland, against Portland. I think he's upset that he's not going to get to be the second best player in that team. I don't think he ever was going to be, but I think in his mind he probably thought he was. So I don't know that he'll keep him, and that maybe they can get him a late first for him, which would make the Siakam deal only have 2 number ones you lose. But Jarris Walker is an interesting player because he's an undersized 4. I've had people tell me he's only like 6'6". I think he's listed 6'8". He doesn't look 6'8" to me. He plays 6'8". He was maybe one of the best 2 players I saw in the G League this year, man among boys, and he's a young guy, 20 years old, I think. He gives them, he's a Draymond Green type, shoots it better, probably. We don't know yet for sure. Passes it. It's hard to say anyone plays like Draymond, but he's got a chance to be that. He's got an edge about him. More athletic than Draymond was at that age. But here's what's cool. Rick Carlisle played him last night as a 3. 2 games in a row as a 3. And that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because if he can guard like that, now they got Walker at the 3, Siakam 4, Turner at 5. With Nembhard probably as a starting 2. I don't think Mathurin will be that guy. And that's 4 defensive players around Tyrese who needs help around him defensively. With lots of offensive firepower. It won't be so much for this year because Jarris Walker's got to grow. But they have Aaron Nesmith, who's a very good 3-and-D guy. When he buys into that role, sometimes he's a little thirsty, I think, as a scorer, instead of just playing off those other guys. I watched their team last night go toe-to-toe with a very good Phoenix team without Tyrese, without Isaiah Jackson, who I think is a valuable backup, although Jalen Smith's also a valuable backup who also shoots well.
Very good.
They've got a lot of role players. TJ McConnell struggled He's had 2 bad games in a row. He might just be in a wall and needs a break because he's played a decent amount and hasn't
Like they
always
all
done
do.
that. Yeah, they all do for sure. I looked it up. The Clippers lost 6 straight games when they got Harden. I talked to some people involved with that team, and they were panicking. And I liked what I saw from them. They needed to figure it out with James.
Right.
They're 24 and 7 cents, I believe. 24 and 7 cents
on a roll.
And we'll get into them later. I know. I like this Indiana team, not so much for this year. They're still very young in a few spots. Siakam's not young, Buddy's not young, Miles isn't young, but there's a lot of key players that are. And but going forward, if Jarrod Walker can be their 3, man, Buddy Hield I've heard he really likes it there. He's not going to get any money compared to what he once would get. Both Tyrese and Nembhard really find him a lot. Siakam is a very willing, and he had 7 assists last night. He's a very good playmaker. He'll get used to playing with Buddy, who's probably a much better shooter, volume-wise, than anyone he's ever played with before. Jarod, I'm telling you, the Pacers, who are 2-2 against Celtics, 2-2 Sixers, 4-1 against Milwaukee, next year, this time of year, when Jarrod Walker's got some real experience, probably, I think he'll start at 3 next year. I don't know that. I just think it. Yeah, I really like the way that team can grow. They've got a lot of depth. They're going to be a team to watch, I think.
I think you're so right. I was watching that game last night as well. And what I like about them, and, as you know, on this pod, I've loved Indiana all year. Loved that they went to the tournament, in-season tournament finals. Was hoping that they would win it. LeBron and the Lakers were really good in that game. They have so much optionality, David, with those guys that you're talking about, with Jarrod Walker, with Jalen Smith, with Isaiah Jackson, and they just need some seasoning, right? They need some development and some time. And, things go well, they'll be very good. I loved what I saw defensively from the Nembhard combo with Walker and some of these guys. Look, I mean, you're talking about Kevin Durant and Bradley. These are like the best offensive players in the world. Those guys were battling. And if this is a team that can guard, and then those guys, particularly those role guys, to your point, don't be like Neesmith and are not thirsty and just know how to play off and cut off those guys. Well, you're cooking with serious grease now.
And they've got a rookie from Belmont named Ben Shepherd. I thought he was like 6'5", but I'm told he's more like 6'6".
He looked very long last night, and he was getting up into people. He still doesn't know what he's doing. Rookie, making a lot of mistakes, but
he plays really hard.
Mm-hmm.
He remember when Grady Dick was the worst player in the NBA. I still thought he had a future because he plays super hard for a guy that's probably going to be a very good shooter with good size.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this guy might be the same thing. He was drafted much lower than Grady Dick, but if he can end up being a shooter, as hard as he plays and doesn't ever dribble the ball like Nesmith needs to play this way, he could be a plus defender, plus shooter, role player. That's very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, maybe he ends up being the starting 2 in a couple of years. If he outplays Nembhard, outshoots him, he's not the playmaker Nembhard is, but Tyrese needs to play with a plus defender and a plus shooter.
Mm-hmm.
So Nembhard's that guy now, I think. But maybe Ben Shepherd could be that. We'll have to see. I like where they're going.
Yeah.
I think they should trade Mathurin personally.
Mm.
I think he wants to be traded. He's not happy, it looks like.
Right.
Now that he knows he's not going to be the next max guy on the team, which I never thought he would be, but I think he thought he would be. So yeah, I think the Pacers, we got to keep an eye on them. They first of all, they played Denver, Philly, Phoenix this week after just coming off a long road trip. Like they might lose 5 in a row,
right?
But just mark my words. This is a team that's to be analyzed and studied going forward because they're going to be really good.
No doubt, we love it. Carlisle's using the regular season to tinker and use it as a lab to figure out what he's got. You mentioned Jalen Smith, David, and Phoenix is going to be kicking themselves right now, being like, "Damn, Jalen's really good. That guy can shoot it. He's long. He competes as well." And when you have a team like Indiana does with a surplus of these kinds of guys, that makes them in the years to come, where we can move a couple of these guys to get whatever that thing is once they've had some playoff success, that, okay, this now locks us into long-term contending status if one of those younger guys isn't there. So it's going to put them in a very advantageous position.
And just to finish that thought, so if you're Buddy Hield, who has already been there now and been part of that culture, it's a very basketball-focused culture, you start wondering, all right, if I can make 3 years X in Indiana, 3 years X somewhere else, and the X is X plus somewhere else, but I want to win a championship. I want to at least contend for one. But this team is going to be really good for years to come now.
Yep. Yep.
They've got enough good young players
Mm-hmm.
and Tyrese and now Siakam.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think it was such a smart move by the Pacers. You assume they have a deal in place. We don't really know
Right.
until you see it. You better, because now you've got a very stable force, a two-way player that plays the right way. He doesn't care if Tyrese is the
Right.
man, whatever.
Right.
He'll have the ball in his hands more and more. I think he has that maybe 12, 13 assists in 2 games as a power forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you start getting a Buddy Hield type to say, you know what, I see my role off the bench. Like last night, they lost just because Buddy can't guard anybody.
Right.
On Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying. He is competing. I'm very happy with what I see from
Phoenix
Buddy.
hunted him for sure. They were like, get the ball on Buddy's guy and go at him.
Every possession was attack Buddy, attack Buddy, attack Buddy. And so you won't finish games with him, but during the course of a game,
Mm-hmm.
he's going to get the ball in his hands a bunch.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he'll like it there better. And all of a sudden, Indy keeps a good free agent. Yeah, I think that's a big deal.
I think you're right. And you love the importance of bench guys who can come off the bench and score. And Buddy's like water, man. That dude, he can stroke it. And that's so valuable in the postseason. So valuable.
And he gets the ball. I think
yeah.
Martin and Halliburton really look for him. And he's not going to get that everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's right. Indiana, folks, listen, we like them. Keep your eyes on them. The team they played, David, the Phoenix Suns, dare I say, have started to turn a corner. It's funny because you mentioned James Harden when the Clippers got him, they lost 5 straight, I believe. And they were not right. Remember, the sky was falling, and you said somebody internally was panicking. With Phoenix, I mean, those 3 dudes have now. This is like in this winning streak, they've played together now. This might have been their 6th or 7th game where they played together. That's not a lot. It takes, as good as these guys are in terms of how smart they are basketball IQ wise, you still need to learn how to play with each other. And I feel like people, they think this is NBA 2K. Oh, I'm just going to trade this guy, and then we're just awesome. It's like, no, that's not how it works. Like, can you talk about how difficult it is to meld a group of players together who are super smart and not selfish? It's not about that, but learning how to play with one another.
Yeah, I'm not a musician. Unfortunately, I have less talent than that than maybe ever in the history of the planet, but I do appreciate it. If you take some really incredible musicians who have never played together and put them together, play with each other together, put them all in a room, they're likely to play good music. There's not another musician trying to beat them up. They're just playing. But give them a year, 6 months, 3 months, they'll play better. Mm-hmm. They'll get a feel for each other, when to come in hard, when to go soft a little bit, whatever. I mean, basketball is jazz. It's the same thing. You aren't just dealing with new systems and a feel for when is this guy going to get the ball here? When does he want to get the ball there? Just where do I cut? When does he cut? Screening angles, all those things. But that to me is obvious. Here's what's not so obvious. It's these guys mostly don't want to be seen as prima donnas. They don't want to be seen as ball hogs. They don't want all the oxygen in the room. They're the opposite of those kinds of people. They've been great for a reason. They understand how to play the we game. And, some guys, and I'm not making fun of Cam Thomas because, I've been a fan,
mm-hmm.
but Cam Thomas probably gets traded somewhere and doesn't affect the thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's just not at that level yet. Maybe one day when you get to a certain level, you have a feel for not wanting to be the loudest voice in the room all the time, especially when you're the new guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's just a comfort zone because you want to be a good human being. You want to be decent. You want to be seen as decent. I haven't watched OG in New York much, but he isn't the type to take a lot of shots anyway. But Siakam is a primary ball handler, and he's got to kind of get a feel for it. He doesn't want to be seen as, oh, we got this fucking flamethrower.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing as Harden in LA.
Yeah.
The last thing James Harden wanted to be is seen as someone who's just say, fuck you guys.
Right.
Westbrook,
right.
And Kawhi and
Paul George. Yep.
No. Like, hey, I'm a team guy. And so it happened with, Henry and I were together at ESPN when LeBron got to play with D-Wade and Chris Bosh. And they were 500 to start the year. And people were saying fire and slow, whatever. And I was, we were doing Troop TV even back then. And I was writing as well. Like, no, these guys are bending over backwards to try to take care of each other. They don't know how to do it yet. Just give them time.
Mm-hmm.
Dwayne is the one who ultimately said, all right, sure, show. He said that loud.
Right.
And I thought that he would say that, which is why I thought LeBron went there to begin with. So, yeah, it just takes a bit to get a feel for, if I take the shot, they're not all going to think I'm a selfish pig. I can just be myself because I'm mindful of not being that guy, and they'll see that.
Yeah.
It takes a bit.
Absolutely. And Phoenix has really turned it around. 5 straight, as I mentioned, 10 of their last 13. You put in the document, David, they were 13th and 16th in offensive and defensive rating since Thanksgiving, and 9th and 14th in those same categories in 2024.
Moving up.
So they're moving up. And I think for them, David,
Beal looks better too.
Beal looks a lot better. I mean, look, he's coming off a back. He had to get himself right, first of all, physically, and that takes a little while playing. And then on top of that,
his back.
Mm-hmm.
So that means you can't even get reps working on your game.
Correct.
You're doing
and then
nothing.
On top of that, all the things that David just mentioned about, do I take the shot here? What is it? It's a lot. It's going to take more than 7 games, right? This is why, in a way, they're probably happy the season's 82 games long, right? Because then they're like, well, we have a runway that we can really work through some things. As opposed to it being a short season, they'd be screwed. But
that fourth quarter lineup, when Nurk fouled out, but if Durant
the 5,
mm-hmm. which he's done there a couple of games,
like we saw against Sacramento. Yep.
Yeah. That's problematic for a lot of opponents.
It is. They're very
he's
good.
Really competing. I know you love him.
Defensively, he's
really
locking. I mean, 40 last night. Offense with him I don't even worry about that anymore.
No.
I mean, I never worried about it, but like when he's locked in on the defensive end of the floor, I'm like, okay, I know something's cooking now. He's starting to feel good about them. They're starting to feel good about each other. David, I think their starting 5 is fine. Grayson Allen's been excellent for them. Nurk, even though he's got his issues, he's a rebounding, passing, very good. Their problem to me, David, is after that top 5, I'm like, I don't love anything on that bench.
For someone. They're going to try to get someone. Boy, imagine they have Bruce Brown. I don't know if they can do it, but
that would help them tremendously.
He would help them a lot. He would help a lot of contenders.
Yeah.
There was a play late in the game where he and Siakam were going at each other all game. They didn't guard each other all game long. Pascal actually started off on Booker, and but they guarded each other late a lot. And they're near half courts. Kevin Durant's trying to break him down. Siakam pokes the ball away, and then as Durant goes to dive for it, Siakam goes to dive for it. The ball goes across half court. I thought it was a violation. They didn't call it. I haven't looked at the last 2-minute report. It might have been last 2 minutes. I think the refs messed up. But I just thought, man, that's almost 14 feet of bodies diving on the ground for a loose ball in freaking January. That was encouraging to me for both teams. These guys want to win. They were competitive. They're clapping. I saw Pascal on the bench clapping and talking. I didn't see that much in Toronto. Both those guys are playing with joy, and I think surrounded with joy for people. And so for Phoenix, when Durant's playing like that, Beal so much better than he was to start the year. Yeah, they have the potential to be really tough to beat in 7 games in a series.
For sure. Because that lineup with those 3 guys presents a lot of problem. And Grayson Allen, by the way, leading the league in 3-point shooting. I mean, he's getting so many. Yes, wide open, we know, but he's also with confidence. And he's not just Kevin said this after the Sacramento game. People think of Grayson as just a 3-and-D wing, but he's showing he can do a lot more. He's like, well, maybe he can't post up. He's got to come to my academy to learn how to do that. But otherwise,
he said that?
Yeah.
He's a good basketball player.
He is. He's
very
a little
slow on defense, but he's a good player. He had a big 3 for them last night off like a weird situation. The ball kind of got loose and found him. He nailed it. That was one of the biggest shots of the game. Yeah, and he doesn't want to get traded either. He's talked about it.
Yeah, he said it. I love it here. I don't want to go anywhere.
Yeah. Who would want to get traded from there? Yeah. When you're a player like him.
Right.
You're going to get your open shots. People are going to try to guard those other 3 dudes. And you got to play hard. But that was never his problem.
Yeah, he does. He competes. And, he's kind of shedding a little bit of that, dirty player rep that he had.
Yeah, I haven't thought in a while.
Justifiably so, right? There were some things that he did that were well-warranted. You're like, what's up with this guy? But he's seeming to matured in that way, as David always says, right? Doesn't mean you can't grow up. So good for them. Yeah, they got to make a trade, though, for sure, because that bench needs help. And, the thing I worry about with them, as I do with the Clippers, so Durant was great last night, but played almost 40 minutes, might have even played 40 last night. They have a back-to-back tonight at home against Chicago, and I'm just like, the problem is they know they need reps and rhythm, so they're going to play, but the science in me may be like, maybe sit him that game. That's a lot of minutes, and you're going back-to-back. Because we're at that stage of the season now, David. I talked about it on our call, where you can see it in the players. I'm sure you noticed it much earlier. They need a break. They're dead. They're hitting that point.
Yeah, about a week into January, I started seeing a real deteriorating signs in most of the players I was watching play a lot. Like they're the level of play has leveled off or dropped. Yeah, the All-Star game should come in early January.
Yeah, these guys need a break, and unfortunately, I'm just going to start monitor those soft tissue, those hamstring, those muscle injuries. Pay attention now because the wear and tear is going to start getting to these guys. All right, David, let's actually take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. All right, I pulled up the EPM's top 15 players, and it's like I just basically call it EPM's All NBA squad because 15 guys. I'm like, if you just use EPM, these 15 guys on the list should be All NBA. Does anyone, first of all, on that top 15 list surprise you, or does the order of anyone surprise you on that list?
I have to look right now.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think that people see Donovan. I've seen him that way for a long time. So that might have been Damian Lillard. Maybe surprises me. Does surprise me, but he's been playing very well. Yeah, Derek White doesn't surprise me. In fact, I want to tell you a cute story. I was talking to a player this weekend who is interviewing for a two-way spot, meaning literally he's a great player. I think he's a very talented young player. He's got to meet with the management coaching staff of a team. And I was kind of prepping a little bit. The agents asked me to talk to him, prep him a little bit for the meeting, on court kind of stuff. And I mentioned, I don't know, something along the lines of how much, you want to be able to play like guys like Drew Holiday and Derek White, who play the right way. Their teams win games, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of players don't love that. They want to be compared to the guys who lead the league in scoring.
Well, actually, really quick before you continue that story, I remember you telling us a story that there was a player you helped in the draft, and you said Drew Holiday, and they actually got offended with you, and you're like, well, "Why? Drew Holiday's fucking great." Like, I can't remember who it was.
It was Tyrese Maxey who was offended when I said Kyle Lowry.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, exactly. Not anymore, probably.
Right.
And Maxey's fantastic. But this player who's 21 maybe said, those are my guys, like Drew Holiday, Derek White. They play the right way. They really defend. And so, like, he gets it. This young guy gets it. Derek White is just,
he's phenomenal.
He's fantastic. He's definitely an all-star level player. There's no question of that.
Yeah.
He's in the running for top 15 in the league. All-star is top 24. I don't know that he'll get it.
Well, right.
But he just, it's always about winning possessions. Win possessions. However you can help your team win possessions in the role that your team needs to do, that you really bring value and build value.
Yeah.
And I thought that I think Donovan's the one guy that if you ask the average person who are the team who's playing great, you might get Derek White from someone who watches the game because Boston's so good.
Right. Yes.
But Donovan Mitchell is a phenomenal talent. I'm a huge fan. Have been since his rookie season. Yeah,
Donovan right now is 8th in EPM. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th. He's right behind Kawhi. Things I noticed: Kawhi and Paul George both in the top 15 in EPM. That's a very, very good sign. What surprised me is someone who's not in the top 15. David, not even in the top 20. Dame is 15th. Dame is right at 15.
No, Tatum.
Well, yes, Tatum, yes, but Derek White's so high up, so that's right. Good. Is Steph Curry. By all accounts, we assume he's still playing well, and if you look at the raw box stats, he is, right? Still shooting great, all that, but the impact on winning that we normally see, he's normally really up there, like top 5, top 8, whatever, not even in the top 20. And the part that's dragging him down, because offensively is really good, is the defense. Defensive metrics are down. And that's not just him individually, it's the whole team across the board. And, look, they're dealing with a tragedy with the death of their assistant coach. We talked about it last Thursday. But, this is, I think it's, as you've always said about LeBron, foolish to throw great dirt upon his grave early, right? But, this is a team that we think the end is here, right? And they got to do some serious retooling and figuring out what they're going to do, because it's highly unlikely that they turn this season around and become a playoff team.
I have an article already published suggesting they should trade Steph Curry, and we have another one coming, maybe even this week, basically saying that the dynasty's over. Right? You're just hoping. There's no evidence to suggest this team's going to make any kind of run again. And so therefore it makes no sense to just keep them together.
Right.
To just lose collectively too
I
many
agree.
games. That's just sad. But they got to pay Draymond all that money. Wiggins still is owed a lot of money. Clay is off. I think it's done after this year, so
Yep.
that helps a little bit. Yeah, but still, it's Tatum not being in there is something because he's been in there before.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And we'll get to them too. They're playing great.
Oh, I mean, listen,
it's still working fine.
And I wonder too, right? Because I know EPM adjusts for, and we were gonna have Steve Alardi on today, but he's sick, so get well soon, Steve. EPM takes into account who your teammates are and who you share the floor with when it's doing its metrics. But I wonder because I often see some minutes where Tatum is not playing with the main guys, right? And so I'm wondering, like, is that dragging him down a little bit? Like, there's all these little factors that I wonder, like, what causes the numbers to drag below what we're seeing with our eyes. Like, when I watch him, he's looking like he's doing all the things, and they're winning possessions when he's on the floor. But yeah, it's interesting to see all that. Lauri Markkanen, of course, also in the top 15. No surprise there.
Amazing.
I wonder. I mean, we talked about this a little bit. I wonder what Danny's going to do. I'm really curious. Is he going to accept an? I feel like knowing Danny. Yeah, if you blow me away with an offer, sure. But short of that, nope, not doing it. That's my guess is what he's probably going to do.
Well, I would argue this of what what you're saying isn't wrong. I would argue the opposite, which is I'm going to use all these picks that we have and go get some really good players next to Lauri right now because they might go 10 years easily can go 10 years and not have a player as good as him.
That's very true.
He's that good of a player. So as much as I want to see him on a place like OKC, I'd love to see Utah go ahead and get in the fray here. Join the fray. You've got an all-NBA level player.
Right.
That's why I love what the Pacers did. They got themselves an all-NBA level player to put next to Tyrese, an all-NBA player. And you don't get these guys often. When you get them, however you got them, in the case of the Pacers, they traded for both.
Yep.
In the case of Utah, they traded for Lauri. Great. Make some moves and throw. See if you can't win 48 games this year and get into the 50s next year and beyond.
No, I listen. I think they'd be dumb to do it. I think you're right. We do this thing where we fall in love with draft picks and draft capital, and I get it because draft capital and picks. Well, not you, but fans and the way that certain media talk about it.
Right.
It sells you the idea of hope, right? But again, it has to be realized. A pick means nothing. The 2030 number one pick. Great. Yes, that has some value to it, but it has to be realized into something. That person may never be as good as Lauri Markkanen is right now. Right? And odds are he probably won't be.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. They've had two.
Right.
They've had three. Gobert, Donovan, and this guy. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got Lauri by trading Donovan, so you couldn't get them all together. But maybe you could have. There's ways to do it.
Yeah. So it'll be curious to see what Danny does there. David, a team we just talked about, the Clippers and James Harden. I know one thing you liked about you heard that he and Zubac are really working. So I found out that it wasn't just Zubac who was staying after practice.
All the bigs.
All of them. And he was invited. And, when we watch sports and these guys are adults and you think like, oh, you get cynical, it's business, whatever. There is still that kid and team in these guys.
My goodness,
and so when they see three dudes working, hey, can I sure you can participate too. Like they're guys who want to get in there and do the stuff.
If you want to see exactly what you're talking about on the screen, watch what I did today. The 22-0 run they finished the game with in against Brooklyn in LA. Yeah. And just watch Terrence Mann on the bench. Because he was not in the game. They went small. PG, Kawhi,
Russ at center,
Westbrook, Harden, and Powell. And when Kawhi started cooking late, Terrence Mann was going absolutely crazy on the bench with his teammates. It was awesome to see. My favorite thing of the year now that I've seen. My favorite thing of the year is the way they just sell. I mean, when Kawhi made his last three, which ended the game, Terrence Mann was racing. I couldn't see what the teammate is, just racing over there to celebrate. It was he knew he was watching 22-0 runs don't happen.
Yeah,
especially the end games.
Yeah,
they literally pitched a shutout for 5:33 of the fourth quarter.
Yes,
the final 5:33. I watched those final 5 minutes 33 seconds. Now Brooklyn deserved a lot of blame
for
what they
them.
did, and they missed some shots that normally they wouldn't miss. But they also did some bad things too. But it wasn't their fault. Kawhi just couldn't be guarded. It was just making crazy shots. Paul George hit a big three in that stretch. Both Westbrook and Harden made a great rebound, hit head passes, immediately catch it, gone right away for buckets. That's good passing. Kawhi hit some big shots too. But yeah, these were guys playing like they were in AAU again when they were in sixth grade. It's awesome to see. I've seen my son when he was a starter, but when he was on the bench, he and one of his teammates who plays for the Gators now, they both, my son's at Florida State, this kid's at Florida, and they both play on the team. And but they had a different celebration for every team. All of our players but one could shoot threes.
Right.
So if they were both out, whoever made a three, Max and Bennett, who was valedictorian at one of the best schools in the state, very brilliant kid. They had their own celebration for each one, and it was hilarious to watch. I was on the bench, but I didn't always go to the games.
Right.
So I would catch the video of it, because otherwise I never paid attention. And they would do these funny celebrations. One of them was like Bennett would hike a football to Max, and he'd pretend to throw it to Bennett. He would score, he would call a touchdown. It was just hilarious stuff. And that's what the Clippers looked like last night during that run. They were just having fun, man.
Listen, Joy, right? You always talk about it. Like, it's when you play that way, it energizes. Everybody feels so good. And of course, winning, what an elixir that is, right? Like, but
one helps lead to the other.
I agree.
Winning helps create joy, but joy beforehand helps create winning.
Correct.
When Siakam was first introduced for the Pacers' first game in Portland, all the guys got to jump before the game. Pre-game warm-ups, they announced starting five. They just mobbed him in the middle and jumped all over him. Had they won a game, maybe they'd have poured something on him. But yeah, Siakam had a real genuine smile. There's it's a game. It's supposed to be. It's hard. 82 games.
Correct.
I talked to a young player, 21-year-old player, the other day and over the weekend, and he plays a lot. I asked him how he's doing, and you could hear it in his voice, like, I'm all right. Like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
My body's, not perfect. I'm not fresh.
Right.
He said those words. I'm not fresh.
Right.
Now, in November, this guy was a puppy dog. The season has already made him into a grown-up already. Like, it wears you down.
Yeah.
Not to mention who you're playing against, Yeah, so, but it's great to be reminded when you do that, it's just easier to play that way.
For sure. And the Clippers, David, only 2.5 games back of first place, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Yeah. And look, again, when they traded for Harden, everybody's like, oh, this team, load management team, those guys don't stay healthy. They lost 6 in a row. Sky's falling, Clippers stink. And I'm like, guys, we got a long season to go. Now look, and you talked about it on our call this morning, we're at the halfway point. What if the next 41 games they go 30-11? Or what if they go, 29 and they're going to a ton of games. Look, they could be the 1 seed. And let me tell you right now, Clippers, the way they're playing with those dudes, and that includes Denver, who I love, and Jokic will be a problem, a huge problem. But that will not be some easy series for either team to advance, if that indeed is what it is. Because those are some dogs on both sides, and it'll be a battle. High level basketball, we hope, and hope no one's injured and all that.
And the Clippers will have an edge. Harden's got an edge. Paul's got an edge. Kawhi's got an Kawhi always has an edge. Kawhi's like the Hulk. He's always angry. It's a great line where the Avengers is. That's my secret, Tony. I'm always angry. There's just a certain thing about him. But if you're thinking about who you play against, Minnesota's not fun to play against because their defense. Nope. But you're not afraid of them in the postseason. Kawhi is a different level. He's just a different level. And by the way, Westbrook, defensively yesterday, swarming as a helper. Harden locking in on defense. We know about Paul George and Kawhi.
Right.
But Westbrook and Harden playing defense that way was good to see. Now, Brooklyn did some stupid things.
Right.
But those guys were competing. Yeah, they know they got a chance here. They have to feel like, all right.
They do.
We've gone through some stuff. But, Russell was in the Western Conference Finals. No, he wasn't. He left. He was gone for LA before the Lakers made that run, right?
Yeah.
But still, he's got to feel like I'm in a great spot here. They all got to feel really good.
He's bought into his role. They got Ty Lue, who's great. And look, guys, they're doing this without Zubac right now, who's out. This is all valuable reps and stuff for them. Again, like the Suns, all you want for them is to be healthy come the postseason. That's the biggest thing. And then look out and watch that magic. Because you imagine a 4 left on just the Western Conference side alone with the Clippers, Nuggets, Suns, and either OKC or Minnesota. That's not a fun gauntlet to get through, my friends. Whoever's going to come out of that one and represent the West. But good things we're seeing over there. And a 22-0 run, as David says. I was watching that. I was like, man, they're not That's how you won the game, because they were down 22-zip and we won. Like, unbelievable. Great
Yeah, they
job
were
of the
down like
Clippers.
9 or 10 points.
Yeah. Great job. We talked about Wemby last week, David, and how he's surging. And I was just looking up some of his numbers. In the 8 January games he's played, he's plus 22.9 in EPM, which is just absurd. He's, the transition, I think, to the league has probably gone about as well as they could hope for. Him individually, the team winning is a separate matter, because they're just not, the other guys aren't very good. But I just feel like, wow, this guy is special. I like all things you said this, and it's like for him, his trajectory is, if this man stays healthy for the majority of his career, he will be one of the all-time greats ever played this game. And you just see it. There's no two ways about it. The question is, where will he be doing that? It will be in San Antonio. Will it be somewhere else? Because right now, I like Devin Vassell. I got some guys they have, but for the most part, the rest of that team, I'm like, I don't know who's a winning player on this team besides this dude.
Yeah, I think Devin is. I like Trey Jones, but probably not as a starter. I don't love Keldon Johnson. I like him. I don't love him.
Right.
Sohan,
we're
they don't have
out
a
on
center yet. I mean, they don't have a player next to Wemby yet. I'm close to a guy named Dom Barlow. I like Dom next to him, but they've not ever played them together. Dom's backed him up. Zach Collins isn't the answer as a backup, but Wemby has been, he just can't make threes.
Yeah.
I mean, he's almost at 33% for the year now, but
which is good because in the 20s,
yeah, I don't know what he is for the season. Maybe I looked up last 15 games. He's at 32.6. I don't remember. That's the number I keep thinking of. Is that what he is for the year?
He's 31% right now. I'm sorry, in January. Let me see what he is for the year.
He might still be below 30. That's
29.6. So he's like just right at just below 30.
He wants to be a shooter. He just isn't. And I thought he was going to be. I was wrong. He's not. He's an amazing basketball player on both ends. Defensively, he won't win DPOY this year, in part because the team is terrible, but he might be the best defense. In the next 10 years, he's likely to be the best defensive player. If Draymond dominated for a stretch, it was Draymond, then Rudy. It's going to be Victor going forward. Yeah. And he can really score offensively. And when he gets the shot down, which I think he will, what are you going to do?
I was just going to ask you about that. Do you think because the shot looks mechanically fine to me, I think, but
not great.
You have the eyes that would know that better.
Yeah. Not great. There's some things he's got to do. It's a lot of moving parts there.
He's so big.
But you can get it. You can eventually figure it out. I imagine he'll spend a lot of time with it. But competitive, wants to win. Very, very, very interested in winning and plays that way. Yeah. He's earned the moniker of the best prospect I've ever seen.
Yeah. And I talked about it last week. His EPMs have shot up, right? Chet was dominating in the rookie race.
Chet a run.
And now he's like, Chet's dropping. And it's this is the NBA. As David said, it's hard, right? Like the idea that Chet was going to come in from day one and maintain that level for 82 games. No rookie does that. Like you gotta learn. And he's hitting a bit of a wall.
Very few players.
Yeah. It's really every night you turn on a game and I'm like, God, and I know you do this because you have players that text you all the time. Okay, coach, on the road trip, I'm guarding Kawhi, Kevin Durant, this person, that person, and you're just like murderer's row. Like, good luck, enjoy it, right? Like it's hard.
I had a player in this last 10 days or so playing Phoenix, and I thought he was going to guard Durant. And about 2 hours for the game, he texted, "I'm guarding Booker." They're very different people to guard.
Still, both very difficult.
Tough to guard. And then Beal, too. Tough to guard those guys, And you can't touch them. Can't even look at them.
That's it.
Can't even look at them cross-eyed. They might call a foul. Might call a technical foul for that.
Especially you young guys. You're probably like, if you're talking to a young guy, tie your hands behind your back. Don't.
Yeah, you can't touch them. Can't touch them. Simple as that. Can't do it.
The All-Star returns came in. The third return on the fan vote. And for those of you familiar, fans vote the starters in, and then the coaches fill out the rest of the rosters. And I was just looking at the returns, and it's everything that you would expect, that the popular people who are known, and also they're popular for a reason because they're also very good at basketball, are the people who are leading in the starting votes. But I also thought, there might be some people who are deserving All-Stars, but may not. They certainly won't get the fan vote to start. And depending on who the coach is, they may or may not get in. We talked about Derek White already. Right now, David, Derek is 1, 2, 3, 4. He is 7th among guards in the East in terms of voting, behind Tyrese, Trae Young, Dame, Donovan, Maxey, and Jalen Brunson. And I would argue the only person I would have above him is Tyrese Halliburton. Nobody else. Like Derek White's been that good to me as a guard. Maybe Donovan Mitchell, you could argue, because of his scoring ability.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you. I as you know, and we talked about before the show, I don't follow that kind of stuff. I don't know who's popular. I know who's good. And yeah, I mean, normally the fans aren't way off, but they're, Trae Young might make it, and he's amazing, by the way.
Well, and also we should add Trae hurt right now, in concussion protocol. So however long that lasts, I don't know. I was also looking at the West, David, and we talked about Steph Curry not being in the top 15 in EPM. However, he is right now the number 2 guard starter behind Luka. And look, Steph, and he's great, but to me, that's that's SGA spot. Like SGA should be the starting West Coast backcourt player.
Well, SGA can play the 3 too.
Except they have him as
How
guard.
do they do that?
That's they
Oh,
have.
oh,
Yep,
oh,
that's
I didn't even know
they have you out positioned. Yeah, front court,
Guard,
backcourt,
forward, center.
No, front court, backcourt. 3 front court players and 2 backcourt players. Yeah.
Okay. So SGA can't start.
No, because he won't overcome Steph. And I'm like, look, ultimately it doesn't matter. He's going to be an all-star. But
he's going to be at the game. He's going to play a lot.
But I mean,
he could be MVP for sure.
I mean, right? The guy might be MVP, and he's not starting the All-Star game.
It's the worst. I mean, I haven't watched it in a long time. It's the worst game.
Correct. Not a competitive game.
I don't know. I don't know how you can fix it because they're just not guarding.
Yeah,
and that's just not for people like me. It's not fun at all.
And look, to be fair, like it's a weekend. They probably because you have a week off. That most of them would prefer to just have the week off. Right? If they had their druthers, they'd be like, "Can I just have the week off and I go on vacation with my family or whatever it is that the non-all-stars do?" Right? Yeah,
like 100%.
As opposed to being in whatever city, you got to do all these promotional events and
you'll be in Indiana,
right? And this, that, and the third, and it's like, listen, it's an honor. They all say the right thing because they know what to do.
Yeah, there's a bunch of parties and whatever.
Right.
I'm not going to be at the game.
You'll be partying somewhere else.
Yeah, you're going to U2 at the Sphere.
You will have an amazing time watching U2 at the Sphere. Again, as I've said a million times on this show, one of the great stadium rock bands like ever. That's going to be such a good show. You're going to have a good time with that. Yeah, I was just looking about guys who, may not make it. Jalen Williams of the Thunder, I think he has a viable case to be a starter.
For sure.
Or not a starter, an all-star.
As an all-star, yeah.
Does Chet make it? Do Chet or Wemby make it? Like,
who are the centers? Who's the leading center vote getter?
So they do it by front court. So the leading front court vote getters are, remember, 3 front court players. LeBron, of course. LeBron, Jokic, and Durant.
He's incredible, by the way, this year again.
Well, listen, that guy. Listen, he might play till he's 50 for all I know. Like at this rate,
unbelievable.
So LeBron, Jokic, Durant. Those are your 3 front court starters. No doubt that's going to happen. Then you go after that. AD. All right. Okay. Then now, once we get up, Şengün. He's been playing well this year. He's a front court guy. Chet, Wemby. Do we? It's.
Hey, Jarod, I don't mean to change the subject.
Yeah.
We'll stay on the All-Star subject, but I do have a question. You made me think of this just now when you were talking about this. Why can't they do like international versus America?
I would love it.
You might get them to guard.
I would love it. So they used to.
You might.
They do that. I think they still do it. What they used to call the rookie sophomore game, which is now the Rising Stars, whatever. I think they do Team World versus Team USA. I don't know if they still do it, but they did used to do that. That's how they broke it up. So all the USA guys versus everybody else who were young players would play. I
mean, I don't know that you would get nationalistic pride for something like that, but I remember. I may have told the story once. So Udonis just got honored with he's in the jersey. He's retired in Miami.
The Ring of Honor.
I watched the whole thing. I remember going to his All-Star appearance, which was rookie game, his rookie season, the Rising Stars game, whatever it was, rookie sensation. And I had him all fired up to fucking. His super talent is just harder than everybody. Yeah. And I got him. We were in LA, my wife and I promised him if you make it, I'll go. So he made it. I didn't know it was going to be in LA. My wife and I flew out there and talked to him the day before the game. I went to practice and we talked and I had him all fired up. And I never watched that game before.
Right.
And I'm not sure they did it for many years before that. And the game was just so embarrassing. It's worse than the All-Star game. I mean, it's just dunk fest. No one's doing anything.
alley-oops,
And he
all that.
said to me, I mean, that game was Melo and Bosch and Wade, like that was his class. Because he was undrafted the year before in 02. This was the 03 game when he was a rookie. And after we went to dinner afterwards, and he said, like, I'm so sorry, coach, but I basically looked like an asshole if I played hard. Like no one was having it. And I said, no, I thought of the same thing. That's just nothing's changed.
Yeah.
But if whatever you can do to introduce them, I don't want them to play at all just because chance for injury.
Right, exactly.
But at least it's better to watch than that garbage.
Yeah, listen, All-Star is going to be a thing that it's not going away, right? It is a necessity for the league and how they sell its broadcast rights, right? So, and I think TNT gets the game again this year and all the festivities. Look, as a kid, I used to love the dunk contest, 3-point, all that. Like it was fun. Now I don't, unless I'm there for like work purposes going, like it's what it is. They wouldn't hurt themselves, NBA, to innovate and think differently about how do we revamp that weekend and make this something that is more enjoyable and a better TV product. I think people still care about the 3-point contests and all that. Listen, you're not going to get the best guys at dunk just for whatever reason. It is what it is. Maybe get rid of it. Do something else. Maybe do a 1-on-1 tournament. I don't know. Like something.
There's some good 3-on-3 things they could do. There's also, instead of the 3-point contest is, to me, very boring. I don't watch any of it, but if you put them through the kind of skill stuff that people like me do,
right?
We have some really cool shooting games. Really cool shooting games. You got to make 2 in the right corner, then 3 on the wing, then 2 at the top. And if you miss one, you go back one spot. If you miss 2 in a row, you go back 2 things. There's all sorts of cool games you can play that people like us have to figure out just to keep these guys challenged. There's the game of how many threes can you take before you miss 2 in a row? Like how can you do shooting from 28 feet, then 38 feet, 25 feet, 35 feet, back and forth? That's a Rick Carlisle thing. Like there's some fun things they can do.
Yeah.
Because it's more game realistic. There's the racks, whatever. I think it's all stupid.
Yeah, no, yeah. So we'll see if they revamp that over time. Look, we got the in-season tournament. We know that's going to be around for a while, and they're going to iterate that. I'd love to see them do some tweaks to All-Star as well. The Celtics, David, you were looking up some great stats on them. In the last 15 games, second in threes attempted, 8th in 3-point percentage, 6th in free throw attempts, 4th in free throw makes, 4th in turnovers, 10th in offensive rebound, 20th in assists. Tell me about that.
So the 20th assist I put in there because they're creating their own shots.
Individual.
They're shooting a lot of threes, and they're making a lot of threes, and they're getting a lot of free throws, and they're making a lot of free throws because of individual talent, playing well together, and in the postseason, when teams defend your best stuff better, they've got 5 defensive players on defense, and they've got the ability to create those shots without having to do much. So and I also wrote in there, as you saw, they're first in offense now, second in defense.
Yep.
So add them together, that's 3, and you want a lower number.
Yep.
The nearest competitor, if you add up offensive EPM and defensive EPM rankings, is OKC with 10. Like they're blowing away everybody else. There's no one else that's like 2 and 3 and 3 and 5. No, 6 and 4, I think, is what the OKC is. So this is right now Boston's ring to lose because they do look like they should be great in the playoffs too.
Yeah,
with this way they play.
I think you're right. Missoula's got a handle of this team now that he perhaps didn't have a year ago because of the awkward circumstances by which he was thrusted into the head role. I watched that game that they lost on Friday against Denver. I mean, Denver are the defending champs. That was a great game. I really liked how Boston played, even though they lost. All those things you talked about, how those 5 guys, like, there's going to be a real problem in the postseason. I just see it. And it's not, everyone's like, oh, the ball's going to Tatum and Brown. I'm like, it might. Look, Derek White, to your point, like, he might be like, no, I'm cooking right now. I'm feeling pretty good. Like, and
he definitely is doing that some this year when he feels like he's got the best matchup, or if he's just got to jumpstart the team, he'll play a bully ball himself. That's a bad boy.
And
bad boy.
And when they're all empowered like that, because David, not a lot of teams, but on some teams, there's a unspoken or maybe spoken rule that I got to get this ball. It's got to go to Tatum or whoever the alpha is on the team.
Yeah,
that don't seem to be how it works over there. Like,
right.
White's empowered. If
I agree.
Good, he can do his thing, which is,
I think the chemistry is really good.
Yeah,
really good in Boston.
And they, again, assuming they're healthy, and that's a really tough team to really strategize against. Again, we talked about this earlier. Because they're defensive guys, they don't have to double much, if at all. Which, double teams are what causes problems, right? Like, the more you watch this game, it's like, oh shit, someone's open somewhere else. We're screwed because now we're in scramble mode. I don't see the Celtics scramble a ton when I watch them play, which is probably pretty good for basketball.
Yeah, they're a special team.
All right,
On
folks.
both ends.
Enjoy. We will see you on Thursday. Have a good one.